And by we're planning it, I mean I've planned it and I'm telling you what I'll be reading in March. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie and today we are planning my March TBR. And by we're planning it, I mean I've planned it and I'm telling you what I'll be reading in March. Before I start talking about the books I'll be reading, I want to go ahead and let you know that if you want to know what books I actually read in February and see how well I stuck to my February TBR, that video will be up on Thursday, so please feel free to subscribe to my channel. That way it'll be easier for you to find it. Anyways though, now let's talk about what I'll be reading in March. The first book I plan to read in March is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I read Six of Crows in December and I want to get this book read and I want to finish this duology before the Shadow and Bone series comes out on Netflix in April. I don't know if I'm gonna read the King of Scars books yet, but I do want to finish this. Crooked Kingdom picks up right after Six of Crows ends and it kind of follows, you know, the crows as they're dealing with being double-crossed and trying to figure out what to do to get even and what they're going to do to get the money they should have gotten at the end of the first book, as well as tie up some other loose ends. And at the same time, now the whole country or other countries also know what they were going after in the first book, and so they've got to deal with that on top of everything else. They're being hunted by more people than normally want them. But I am excited to read this book. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I've heard some people actually like this better than the first book, and that doesn't happen too often from what I can tell. Typically people like the first book the best, not the second book, but I guess because this is a duology, not a trilogy, maybe that's why. The next book I want to read in March is Patron, Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay. This book follows Jay. He's just graduated from high school and he's about to start college, but he's like on that summer between college and high school, and so he plans on just having like this lazy, relaxed summer and not having to do much. But then his cousin, who still lives in the Philippines, is murdered, and no one will tell him what happened. No one wants to tell him what happened. And instead of accepting everyone's non-answers, he goes to the Philippines to find out for himself what happened to his cousin. But he kind of finds that maybe he had something to do with his cousin's death. And so the story is like, you know, coming of age story that also deals with grief and blame and guilt. So I am excited to read this one and see what actually happens. Next, I intend to read Darling Rose Gold by Stephanie Roble. This book follows Rose Gold Watts. She grew up believing she was very sick and ill, and she was constantly in and out of doctor's offices. I think she had surgeries and a bunch of other invasive procedures, and I'm sure they racked up medical bills. And it was to the point that her neighbors and community members were donating money to her and her mother to help them with their bills and help them live more comfortably. But eventually Rose Gold finds out that, you know, her mom lied about everything. Rose Gold wasn't actually a sick child, and Rose Gold, I guess, turns her mom to the police and testifies against her mom. And now 5 years later, Rose Gold's mom is out of prison and she needs somewhere to stay, and Rose Gold opens her doors. And a lot of people who know Rose Gold, her mother, are like, why would you let your mom live with you? You know what kind of person she is. You know what she did to you as a child. But apparently Rose Gold seems to have something hidden up her sleeves in order to protect herself better, maybe. From what I can tell, this book definitely seems like it might be inspired by Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother and what happened with them. And so I'm wondering if that's what inspired this book. I haven't read, you know, the foreword or the author's notes yet because the only thing I've read so far is the summary. But I am excited to read this one and I'm interested to read this one. The last physical book on my TBR is Queenie by carty-williams. This book follows Queenie. She is going through a lot right now in her life. Her boyfriend just dumped her. He's asking her to leave their apartment. Her family doesn't really listen to her or really see her for who she is or what she needs. And just it feels like she keeps making all the wrong decisions. And so I think this is her book where she kind of like figures out what she needs and what she wants for herself and hopefully starts getting her life a little bit back together. I heard a lot about this book when it first came out. Some people were comparing it to Bridget Jones' Diaries, only to find out that it was not like that. But then what really like picked my interest back up for this book is last week I finished Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, and I was looking at some Instagram reviews and someone compared it to Queenie, or I don't know if they necessarily compared it, but they made a post that said, you know, if you like this, you might like that. And it said, you know, if you liked Honey Girl, you might like Queenie, or maybe the other way around. But either way, my interest in Queenie was renewed, and I'm really excited to read this again, especially because I loved Honey Girl so much. The final book on my March TBR is Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. I'm very sorry if I'm pronouncing the author's name incorrectly. I will be reading this as an ebook on Scribd, and it follows Alex. She's a Bruja who does not want to be a Bruja. She is also considered the most powerful Bruja of her generation, but she does not want to be a Bruja at all. It's something she despises, apparently. Her dad disappeared because of his magic. So for this death day, she does a ritual that is supposed to, I guess, get rid of her magic, but it backfires and it gets rid of her entire family. They just disappear. And so she has to work with this bruja named Nova, and they have to work together to save Alex's family. So I'm excited to read this book. This is the first time I've heard about this book. I was just scrolling through Scribd looking for something to read because I've been in a reading slump the past few days. I haven't really been able to decide what I want to read, and I can't tell what I'm in the mood for. I don't know if I'm in the mood for contemporary or fantasy, but I think I want fantasy, but I'm not quite sure. But I found this book and it sounded interesting, and the second and third book are also ebooks on Libby, and I'm kind of hoping it's just a trilogy, and you know, it's one I can finish real quick because I'm already in the middle of so many other series. But it sounded interesting. I kind of want to read something with witches. I haven't read a lot that has witches lately, and so I'm excited. Anyways, those are the books that I intend to prioritize in March. If you've read any of them, please let me know what you think of them. And also, please feel free to let me know what books are on your March TBR, and if you do not do TBRs, what's something that you hope you get to read in March. Anyways, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will talk to you on Thursday with my February wrap-up. Bye.